I said it the way you'd order takeout. I don't love you anymore. No warning, no fight, no tears, just 5 words. I remember standing there, wondering if I'd misheard her. I didn't ask why. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded once and said, okay. That was all. Rebecca looked almost relieved, like she'd been holding her breath for years and finally let it out. I walked upstairs, packed a small bag, and folded everything the way you do when you're checking out of a hotel you've stayed in too long. I took only what I needed. Some shirts, my toolbox, and the old travel guitar I hadn't touched in years. She didn't look up when I passed her on the way out. The driveway gleamed, and I could see her reflection in the kitchen window. She didn't move. I drove for 2 hours without knowing where I was going. By midnight, I reached a quiet town called Riverside. I pulled over near a print shop with a room for rent sign in the window and knocked. The owner, Mr. Whitaker, was an older man with a limp and a steady gaze. He looked at me, looked at the bag on my shoulder. You look like someone who needs a place to disappear for a while. He wasn't wrong. By morning, I had a small room above the shop, 1 window, 1 bed, and silence thick enough to breathe in. The next day, I found work at the public library, stacking returned books. No one asked where I came from. No one cared. For the first time in years, I slept through the night, but I learned soon enough, silence never stays empty for long. 3 weeks passed before I heard from her again. It started with a text, just a photo of my old running shoes sitting by the back door. The caption read, "Left these." I stared at it for a minute, then deleted it. 2 days later, another message arrived from a number I didn't recognize. "You still make order out of mess." That was something Rebecca used to say when I fixed things around the house. Drawers, pipes, her mood. I didn't reply. Riverside had a way of swallowing noise. In the mornings, I opened the library with coffee in hand. In the evenings, I'd sit by the window above the print shop. Peace was simple: read, work, sleep. Maya Alvarez ran a plant shop next door. She'd wave when I came down for coffee. Once, she handed me a small fern and said, "Try not to kill it. They like quiet people." I didn't have the heart to tell her I hadn't kept anything alive in months. Then one night, as I locked up the library, my phone buzzed again. No caller ID, just a voicemail. When I played it, there was no voice, only the sound of a radio. It ended with a faint clatter, maybe a dish hitting the counter. I knew what this was. Not love, not regret, guilt. A week later, an envelope arrived at the library's back office, addressed in her handwriting. Inside were divorce papers, clean, formal, without a single note. She'd signed everything already. Property, accounts, no alimony. It was like she wanted to erase me efficiently. I signed and mailed them back the same day. No hesitation, no message. For the first time since that night in the kitchen, I thought it was really over. I was wrong, because letting go isn't always the same as being done. The first package showed up a month later. No return address, just my name written in small, neat letters. Inside was a handful of old memories I hadn't asked for. Concert tickets from our 5th anniversary, a photo strip of us making stupid faces, and the pocket knife I lost 3 years ago. No note, no explanation, just ghosts in a cardboard box. I left it behind the library's counter until closing time. Then I took it out back and dropped it in the dumpster without opening it again. That evening, as I walked up the stairs to my apartment, I caught the faint reflection of headlights parked across the street. A grey sedan, the same model as hers. The engine idled for a few seconds, then drove off. I told myself it was coincidence. I wanted to believe that. 2 nights later, I got a message on my phone, just one line: "You shaved." My stomach tightened. I had trimmed my beard that morning before work. No one saw me except the library staff, and none of them knew my number. I tore through my bag. That's when I found it, a tiny black disc the size of a coin, sewn into the seam of my duffel. A Bluetooth tracker. My hands shook as I smashed it with a wrench. The sound it made was softer than I expected, like breaking a shell. After that, I started keeping notes. Times, dates, what I saw, what I heard. I wasn't paranoid. I was paying attention. I stopped walking home the same way twice. Change the locks. Rebecca had filed for divorce, but it was clear she hadn't accepted it. She was living in the ashes, trying to drag me back in, and yet I kept my distance from Maya. She didn't need to be part of this, but trouble doesn't ask for permission. It just keeps finding new doors to knock on. I came home one night and knew something was off before I even turned the knob. The door was cracked open, not wide, just enough to show that it hadn't latched. I froze. Inside, nothing was stolen, nothing broken. But on the counter sat a chipped blue mug, Rebecca's mug. She'd used it every morning for years. I hadn't seen it since the day I left. Next to it, the old kitchen timer ticked steadily, set to 11 minutes. Our marriage had lasted 11 years. I stood there listening to the sound, each click louder than the last, until it stopped. Then I noticed the photo on the floor. It was a picture of me and Maya taken outside her shop, laughing about something. It had been printed recently. Someone had followed us. I called the police. Officer Helen Grant arrived an hour later, tall, calm, and half interested. She looked around, took a few photos, wrote on her notepad. "Door doesn't look forced," she said. "Could be someone you know. Maybe an ex trying to get your attention." I stared at her. "She broke into my place," Helen shrugged. "Nothing's damaged. And you're not hurt. Document it. Call if she shows up again." That was it. After she left, I sat on the couch and stared at that mug. For a long time, I thought about what kind of person walks into someone's life after ending it quietly, like they still belong. I threw the mug away, changed the locks again, and bought a cheap camera to point at the doorway. Sleep became shallow. Every sound felt like a signal. I stopped leaving the light off at night. Rebecca's guilt had turned into something sharper, something that wanted control. She wasn't missing me. She was watching me. And I finally understood that silence wasn't protection anymore. It was bait. I decided I was done waiting for her next move. At the library, the night guard Eddie noticed I'd been distracted and asked if something was wrong. I told him just enough to make sense of it. He gave me a number. "Call Ben Carter," he said. "Private investigator. Quiet guy." No nonsense. Ben met me at a diner on the edge of town. He looked more like a math teacher than a detective. Button-down shirt, calm voice, steady eyes. After hearing everything, he asked, "You want to scare her or stop her?" "Stop her," I said. He nodded once. "Then you'll have to let her expose herself." The plan was simple. I reopened my social media and posted a few harmless photos, a library shelf, a cracked guitar case, the coffee shop sign downstairs. Within a day, new accounts began to follow. The comments started, "Still fixing things, I see. You always liked quiet corners." No names, no profile pictures, but it was her. Ben traced the activity within 48 hours. Every account linked back to Rebecca Jameson. He showed me the report. "She visits twice a week," Ben said. "You should know what she's keeping there. She's cataloging your life," he added quietly. "This isn't love, it's possession." He gathered the evidence and handed me a folder. "Next step's legal, but you need to confront her once. Public place. End it properly." I didn't like it, but he was right. I'd left once without a word. This time, I had to make sure she heard me. We met at a cafe near the courthouse. Neutral ground. Ben sat a few tables away, pretending to read the paper. Rebecca walked in 15 minutes late. She looked smaller than I remembered, hair tied back, dark circles under her eyes, clothes hanging loose. When she spotted me, she stopped mid-step, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, Larry," she said, voice trembling. "Rebecca," I answered. Nothing more. She sat down, glanced around, then whispered, "You look different." "So do you." Silence stretched between us. Then she spoke fast, like the words had been waiting in her throat too long. "I know how this looks. I know I went too far, but I wasn't thinking clearly. I thought maybe if I reminded you of us. You broke into my apartment, I cut in, you left things, you followed me." Her face twisted, half regret, half panic. "I just wanted to see if you were happy." "I didn't mean, stop pretending it's about love," I said. "You told me to go." "I did." "You filed for divorce. You got what you wanted." "I didn't want this," she said, voice cracking. "I wanted you to fight for me." I leaned forward. You wanted control. And when I stopped giving it to you, you couldn't stand it. Tears welled in her eyes. I was angry, Larry. I was stupid. I thought if I pushed you away, you'd realize you couldn't live without me. I did live without you, I said quietly. And it turns out I was better at it than you expected. That's when Ben stepped in, calm, measured. He set a folder on the table. Miss Jameson, this is notice of a no-contact order. Continued communication or presence near Mr. Bennett will be considered harassment. Rebecca's face went pale. You hired someone to spy on me? No, I said. I hired someone to stop you. She stood suddenly, chair scraping the floor. Let me keep something, Larry, just one piece. I shook my head. You lost that right. Then she was gone. Ben watched her leave, then turned to me. You did the hard part. But deep down, I knew it wasn't finished yet. I hoped that meeting was the end of it. For a few days, it almost felt that way. No calls, no messages. Then a small padded envelope arrived at the library's front desk. No return address. Inside was a USB drive wrapped in tissue paper. Against my better judgment, I plugged it into the computer. The screen filled with short video clips, silent footage of me walking to work, unlocking the library door, sitting at my desk, all filmed from a distance. Nothing inside my apartment, but close enough to feel like a hand on my shoulder. Ben took the drive and handed it to Officer Helen Grant. A search warrant was issued 2 days later. They found her laptop, 2 cameras, and a notebook filled with dates, addresses, and comments about my daily routines. That same afternoon, Rebecca was brought in for questioning. I wasn't there, but Ben told me she looked exhausted, like the guilt had finally eaten through her nerves. She admitted to following me but denied breaking in, said she only wanted to make sure I was okay. The judge granted a restraining order immediately. Mandatory therapy sessions followed. For the first time, I didn't feel anger, just relief and, strangely, pity. Rebecca wasn't the woman who told me she didn't love me. That version had burned away long before she realized what she'd done. Maya noticed the difference in me. One evening she said, "You finally look like you're not waiting for something bad to happen." I smiled. Maybe for real this time, because I'm not. Still, when the phone buzzed at night, I'd hesitate before checking. Every shadow outside the window made me pause, but gradually, the weight lifted. Sometimes silence means peace. Other times it's the space right before someone tries again. I wasn't sure which kind I had yet, but I knew one thing. If she reached out again, I'd be ready. 6 months passed before I heard her name again. By then, life had settled into something that finally felt like mine. Maya and I started running a small weekend booth at the town square, a mix of used novels from the library's surplus shelf and potted plants from her shop. Locals came by. Simple things, things that made sense. One afternoon, as I was closing up, I found an envelope sitting on the booth's counter. No one had seen who left it. Inside was a single sprig of rosemary and a note written in careful handwriting. This was the only thing I kept alive. Goodbye. I stared at it for a long moment. No threats, no questions, just a fragment of the past, softer than before. That night, I walked down to the river and planted the sprig near the bank. Rebecca was gone for good this time. Officer Grant confirmed she'd completed her therapy and moved out of state. Ben sent a short message a week later, all quiet. Peace isn't dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It just shows up one morning when you realize your shoulders aren't tense anymore. Sometimes I still think about that first night. It used to sound like an ending. Now it feels like the start of everything that finally made sense. For the first time in years, I wasn't running, watching, or waiting. I was just here, still, steady, and free. Thank you for watching.